Right. It looks like we're live. Welcome to the show. My name is Nick Larson, and today I am really focused on just a few things. First off, the Stack Overflow Developer Survey came out today, so I'm going to go ahead and work through that. Sort of talk about the questions that are on there, try to guess what it is that they're looking for, and just let you know what my answers are. And then after that, I think we'll switch over to doing some like graph search problems. These are going to be, kind of simple at first, and then after that, we'll move into some more interesting stuff. But for now, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. And let's go ahead and get started. All right, first things first. Stack Overflow. 2019 Developer Survey. Take the survey. All right. Turn off my ad blocker for a moment like it asked me to do. Do. I use a Pi-hole in case you're curious. So I had to turn it off for a little bit. We're going to turn it off for 60 minutes. All right, now we should get going. See if it blocked anything. I seem okay so far. Current progress, 0%. Let's go. All right. Basic information. The first section will focus on some basic information about who you are. Most questions are required. Which of the following options best describes you today? Here, by developer, we mean someone who writes code. I do write code for my profession. Do you code as a hobby? Indeed. Not nearly as much as I used to, but still some. How often do you contribute to open source? Ooh, not very much. Like other people's projects? Yeah, we're going to go with less than once a year on that. Open source is one of those things where like I would love to do it, but it's just, you know, I feel like some people just kind of get into it and it's their thing, and then for me, like my hobby is my hobby, my time, not you know building things that I want to see turn into bigger things per se. I want to say that the last time I contributed to open source was probably Bundler, or Bundler is like a package. You know, it what's it called? Like minifying all your JavaScript and all of that and like combining it. And that was written by a guy, Demis, who used to work at Stack Overflow for, I don't know, maybe 2 years or so. And I worked on that while he was there. And I don't remember exactly what it was that I did. That's how long ago it was. The next thing is I rewrote the way that the MaxMine C Sharp library loads up the database. So it compresses everything down. It has a ton of information in there about geonames, and it compresses it way down. Like to save even more bits, it goes to like UTF-7 instead of UTF-8. So the way that I made this thing fast, because it was really slow. I mean, like every time you did a search, it had to like uncompress everything and then find the next thing and then uncompress that and then find the next thing and uncompress that. And I just added an option where you could go in and you could expand the whole thing, and then your lookups are like super, super, super fast. And those are about the only things I can remember doing outside of like really trivial stuff. Yeah, for the most part. All right, how do you feel about the quality of open source? Well, it's about the same, I think. There's like different grades here too, where it's like if you have like, this is also kind of bright. It's kind of getting on my nerves. If you have like something super famous, like a jQuery or an Angular, where like tons of people are looking at it and going through it all the time, then I feel like there is a little bit, slightly better, but not really. Like most of the stuff is still kind of hacked together, and unless there's like specific rules about how you check it in, I would say that documentation wise, open source tends to be a little bit better than what you would find like inside of a company. But at the point where you're talking about it being a library and being shared out, like there's some developer knowledge somewhere, and the actual code quality itself, I feel like, is about the same. So that's where I'm coming with from that answer. Let's see. Which of the following best describes your current employment status? Full time. That one's easy. We are thinking about creating a coding music playlist. What is your favorite music artist or genre that helps you focus? Absolute silence. Yep, that's it. And which country do you live in? United States. Cool. In what territory do you live in? Virginia. And what town do you live in? Roanoke. Cool. This section will focus on Stack Overflow usage and community questions. Most questions in this section are optional. Required questions are noted with a star, an asterisk, whatever you want to call it. To the best of your memory, when did you first visit Stack Overflow? In June of 2009. Let's see, I graduated college in December of 2008. I got my first job in 2009 in March. Yeah, and probably right after that. It took a little while for me to get ramped up there, and then the very first thing that I did was convert one of their websites. Was like really slow, and I was supposed to speed it up, and I converted it over to ASP.NET from like this old ASP version that it was on, and it helped and it got faster. But like as part of it, I was like, oh, let me use this MVC thing because it's new and I'm doing something new. And back then I didn't really think about things like, oh, introducing new technologies to your company. That's and what kind of non-trivial implications that has. So yeah, I think so. But it was a really good story too, because when I asked my very first question, the person who answered it was Phil Hack, who at the time was like the PM or lead developer, I'm not even sure which, on the ASP.NET MVC team. And I was like, oh, who's this person? Let me look this up. And when I went and looked them up, and I was like, oh, that is the person in charge. So, like, now I know that answer is correct. Like, I have gotten it from the source. And that's, like, the thing that made me fall in love with Stack Overflow as, like, a user. How frequently would you say you visit Stack Overflow? I have never visited Stack Overflow. A few times a week? Yeah, that sounds about right. Daily? I don't know what they mean here. Is this like on the weekends? Because like a few times per week for sure. Yeah, I'm going to just go with a few times per week. I would say when I'm working, every day that I'm working, I would say on my off days, I try to stay away from coding a lot, but I still have to look it up for a lot of things. Okay. I visit Stack Overflow too. Check all that apply. Find answers to specific questions. I don't think I'd learn how to do things I didn't necessarily look for. Learn how to do things I didn't necessarily... I'm not sure how you would land on Stack Overflow if you weren't looking for stuff. Contribute to a library of information. Yeah, not really. I really just want help with the problems that I've got. Get a sense of belonging to the developer community. No, not really. I mean, like the developer community in general and belonging to it, I feel like, I don't know. I've never felt like I'm not part of the developer community, so I'm not entirely sure. I'm not entirely sure what that feels like. Meet other people with similar skills or interests. Nope. I don't even know how to meet people on Stack Overflow. I am getting a Slack message. Okay, great. On average, how many times a week do you find and use an answer on Stack Overflow? Yeah, 3 to 5, maybe 6 to 10. 3 to 5. Yeah, let's just go with 3 to 5. Like I said, every day that I work, sometimes more. All right, think back to the last time you solved a coding problem using Stack Overflow, as well as the last time you solved a problem using a different resource. Which was faster? That really depends on what it is that I was looking for. If I was looking for something super specific, not like how do I organize these statements in order to solve my problem, but something like how does this whole system work? Like, how does Angular work? That's not something you go to Stack Overflow for. So I guess there's been a couple of times where I go and like find a blog. Oh, okay. So hosting environment.q background work item. There are answers on Stack Overflow, but then there's a few blog posts about how to do it better. And then funny enough, I went to Stack Overflow and then it told me to go to another site to go look at this blog post. So I don't know. Stack Overflow is, I guess. I don't know the answer here. How much time did you save? Please use your best estimate. 10, 10 minutes, 30 minutes, 25, 20 minutes. I don't know, 15 minutes. Do you have a Stack Overflow account? Yeah, sure do. How frequently would you say you participate in Q&A on Stack Overflow? By participate, we mean ask, answer, vote for, or comment on questions. Well, I vote for every single time. Yep. And I comment a fair amount. So I'm going to say a few times per week for vote for, because I vote for every time. Okay. Have you ever visited or used Stack Overflow jobs? In fact, I have. I built a fair portion of it. Have you ever used Stack Overflow Enterprise or Stack Overflow Teams? In fact, I have, because I work here. Do you consider yourself a member of the Stack Overflow community? Well, yeah. There is one like thing here where I'll say no, which is like there is this whole like faction of the Stack Overflow community, and I feel like probably even Jeff Atwood is here where they're like, we're about building an artifact, the giantest developer book ever. And that part I don't really agree with it. Like for me it's more about like let's let's help people, and helping people doesn't mean shutting people out when they need help. Um, and so, yeah, in that regard, yeah, no. Uh, in the overall community, yeah, I mean, I guess I don't feel like, you know, people shun me away from the site or anything like that. So, yes. All right, compared to last year, how welcome do you feel on Stack Overflow? Just as welcome as I felt last year. Yep. I don't really have a way to expand on that other than what I just said, which is never really didn't feel part of it, but don't have like degrees of being more welcome. I feel like I try to make the site more welcoming for people that I know don't feel welcome here, by doing things like cleaning up my comments and using less aggressive language, and things like that. But as far as me feeling like that, then my answer is yeah, just as welcome as last year. If I could change anything about Stack Overflow, what would it be? Remove all comments from the site for unregistered users. Yeah, just don't show it to them at all. 99% of those people are coming from Google. They're here for an answer, and the comments are there just to upset people. Just kidding. The comments are there to get more help and clarification about the problem, but comments never get cleaned up, just ever. And some of them get really bad. So yeah, just don't show it when we don't need to show it. like there's not a lot of benefit for those people. I mean, sometimes people answer in the questions, but I feel like the registered users do a pretty good job of getting that person to post an answer and then they get a few upvotes. So overall, yeah, I don't think there's a whole lot of value here for comments for unregistered users. Would you like to see any of the following on Stack Overflow? Tech articles written by other developers. Yeah, that'd be fucking cool. Industry news about technologies you're interested in? Probably. Would keep me from going other places like Hacker News and whatnot. I don't know if comments or something that I would want to see on that. You know, it's not so much a discussion thing. It's more like I just want to know the kind of big things that are going on in a curated way. It'd be cool. Let me vote on it, just like Reddit. Tech meetups or events in your area? Not really. I mean, I live in a small town and there's only one meetup. So, yeah, maybe it would be different if I was in a big town, but no, as like a small town person, it just doesn't mean a whole lot to me. I know like I don't know, the 10 or 12 developers around here that I know, and I'm pretty good friends with them, and we all just kind of get together every once in a while. So, yeah. Courses on technologies you're interested in. Usually, no. But I do think there's room for like a curated list of it. Yeah, I don't know. Probably not. I think like in my day-to-day passerbying of Stack Overflow, this doesn't make sense, whereas these two do. It's just like news and blog posts that I'm going to be looking up anyway. But these things are like more about me. And I'm not entirely sure that like this is the place that I go. Like I read books when I want to learn a new language, and I watch videos on YouTube quite a bit, or I take classes. I'm not entirely sure that like constantly having that kind of, well, books every once in a while would be kind of cool. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna say no to these for now because these make a lot more sense to me. All right, education, work, and career. All right. Are you currently enrolled in a formal degree granting college or university program? Yes, I am full time. Georgia Tech online master's in computer science. Highly recommend. Which of the following best describes the highest level of formal education that you've completed? I've never completed any formal education. Let's just skip down. Bachelor's degree. Working on my master's currently. Hopefully finish it in May. What was your main or most important field of study? Computer science. Okay. A little bit of coffee. All right. Which of the following types of non-degree education have you used or participated in? Please select all that apply. I have taken a MOOC. I have not done a boot camp. I have taught boot camps. Well, not. I have taught portions of boot camps, the interview portion, but not actually like participated. Taken a full-time in-person course on programming. Is that college that I went to? Completed an industry certification. No, the only time I ever tried to was to get the A+ certification, like, the first time I dropped out of college and needed some way to like tell people that I knew what I was doing, and then I just never went through and actually finished that. Yeah, haven't done anything. Received on-the-job training, yeah, quite a bit. Taught yourself a new language, almost all of them. Participated in online coding competitions, absolutely. I love those things. Participated in a hackathon and open source, yeah, that's pretty much it. It's like at this point I almost want to go out and get that certification just so I can start checking off these boxes, but not really. Curious what your answers might be. Feel free to drop me a line in the chat and we can chat about them. Which of the following best describes the industry you work in? If you or your employer are involved in several industries, please choose the one most relevant to the products or services you work on. I want to say internet. Because, wait, web development? No, we're not web developers. We're internet. We're like information people. Software as a service? No. Cloud-based? No. Security, retail? No. Research? Nope. Non-profit advertising? Yeah, I think internet right here is going to be the one. I jumped right to it because that's what it's been in the past. I was just wondering if they had added any new, well, maybe data and analytics, but not really. The company's not based on that, but I guess that's what my job is related to. I'm going to go with data and analytics, I guess. Okay. Approximately how many people are employed by your company? 100 to 249. I want to say it's right at 300 right now. Which of the following describe you? Please select all that apply. Machine learning specialist? I mean, in a sense. Definitely full stack developer. Not a designer. None of these. Not a mobile developer. Not a QA. Not a DevOps specialist. Not an educate. Data engineer? Yeah, something like that. That's what my actual title is. Product manager, scientist, senior. It'd be fun for scientists. Student? I'll go with student. Yeah, that sounds good. Including any education, how many years have you been coding? Oh, that's a great question. I am 36. I started when I was 11, so that'd be 25. But let's just say realistically, there was like 4 years in there or 5 years in there, so we'll just go with 20. Yeah, it started when I was 11. Definitely did it till I was 13, and then like when I got into high school, I really kind of stopped, with the exception of like a few really, really off side projects. And then right about the time I got into college, I got back into it. Well, yeah, I guess so. Yeah, about that. At what age did you write your first line of code? 11. How many years have you coded professionally as part of your work? 10. Overall, how satisfied are you with your career? Very satisfied? Yeah, for the most part. How satisfied are you with your current job? If you work multiple jobs, answer one for the one you spend the most hours on. Yeah, pretty satisfied. I would say I am more satisfied with my current job than my career. I guess in the sense of like, there are some. I, I, I love my current job. I want to make more of an impact, like as far as a career goes. That's like, hence me being out here doing this sort of streaming thing, trying to get more into like a mentorship role. I really want to have like, yeah, just that impact. So I would say that like, yeah, career growth, I see a very long trail of things where I can still improve on. And I think overall, I'm on the path to get there, which is good enough, and my current job really enables me to stay on that path. So I think this is pretty much it. I think we'll go with slightly satisfied, although I wish there was like, something in between there, something that didn't seem like it was just over the line of satisfied. Anyway, how confident are you that your manager knows what you're doing? Pretty much. We get together every week. Do you believe you need to be a manager to make more money? I certainly hope not. Do you want to become a manager? Not really. I mean, it depends. It's like, if that's what I have to do in order to achieve the things that I want to achieve, then the answer would be yes. But part of me really hopes that that answer is no. Like, there's like, technical leadership is not what I consider to be a manager. So in this, I'm just going to say no. I would say technical leadership is like the role I hope to achieve. But being a manager per se, not really. Which of the following best describes your current job seeking status? I am not interested in new job opportunities. When was the last time you took a job for a new employer? Does that count side jobs? I'm gonna say main job more than 4 years ago. All right. In your most recent successful job interview, resulting in a job offer, you were asked to write code by hand on a whiteboard. That actually happened. Solve brain teaser style puzzle. Yep, that also happened. Again, this was like years ago. That's, yeah. Interview people in pure roles. I see how these two questions together, the last question and this question, are going to make for like a really interesting blog post to see like what sorts of things have changed over time. Although only going back 4 years, it doesn't seem like that much. Interview with people in pure roles, that did happen. Interview with people in senior management roles also happened. What have you ever been asked to? Oh, have you ever been asked to solve FizzBuzz in an interview? No. Part of me would be offended at this point. It's like I understand it, but like it was a limited time sort of a thing. All right. Imagine you are deciding between two job offers with the same compensation, benefits, and location. So literally, like, of the following factors, which three are most important to you? How widely or impactful my work output would be. That's pretty big. Um, Specific department, diversity, financial performance, or funding opportunities for professional development, flex time. Yeah, flex time. That's pretty big. Office environment or company culture. I mean, that's got to be number one, really. Remote work options. Oh, shit. Yeah. I mean, like today, let's just go with like office environment, company culture. So for this right here, I sort of wrap up diversity in there. And it also, to me, includes a little bit more about like the way that people work together, whether it's like a combative environment or like a collaborative environment or, you know, that sort of a thing. Yeah, to give like an example here, there's when when you have a bunch of like contractors working together, everyone's just kind of got their way of doing things. And there tends to be a fair amount of butting heads and a fair amount of like miscommunication in terms of there's no common language or anything like that. And when that sort of environment isn't, cultivated a bit and things aren't, people aren't brought into the fold per se. Yeah, I don't particularly enjoy that. I think other things are, yeah, I am 100% collaborative. It's important to me that everyone gets a chance to speak. It's important that people don't talk over each other, these sorts of things. So that's definitely pretty big on my list. I think flex time, I have kids. My wife, runs a business out of our house as well and has to go places and do things. So yeah, that right now at this point in my life is big. I think, at a different point in my life, it wouldn't be nearly as big of a deal. Yeah, for the most part. Remote work, yeah, I'm just not going to work. I mean, I would work in an office, but I don't really want to move. So there we go. All right, think back to the last time you updated your resume, CV, or online profile on a job site. What was the primary reason you did so? I had a negative experience. I was preparing for a job search. I heard about a job opportunity, re-entry into the workforce. Something else changed. Education, award, media. That's it. Oh, well, no, it was one of these two. Yeah, probably. Probably. Well, I got a promotion last time, so that's the most recent one. Yep. All right. Which currency do you use day to day? USD? If the answer is complicated, please pick the one you're most comfortable estimating in. Sure. What is your current total compensation, salary, bonuses, perks, before taxes, and deductions in the United States dollar? Please enter a whole number in the box below without any punctuation. If you are paid hourly, estimate an equivalent weekly, monthly, or yearly salary. If you prefer not to answer, leave the box empty. I don't know what I make. It's around 141, I think. That's yearly. On average, how many hours a week do you work? Like 50. Really, it's more like 45. Okay. There is a schedule and or a spec made by me or a colleague, and I follow it very closely. There is a schedule and or a spec. Oh wait, how structured or planned is your work? There is a schedule and spec made by. There is a schedule or spec, and my work somewhat aligns. Sometimes there's a schedule or spec. I work on what seems most important or urgent. There's a schedule or spec in my works. Yeah, it's a mix between these two. My team is a support team, so pretty much when things come down the pipe, we work on things that come down the pipe, and outside of that, we spend a lot of time doing exploration for things that we think are interesting or might have some sort of value. And those things have resulted in some pretty big wins around here, which has been really nice. So, yeah, somewhere in between these two. All right. Of these options, what are your greatest challenges to productivity as a developer? Select up to 3. Of these options, what are your greatest challenges to productivity as a developer? Oh, what are your greatest? Does that mean like in my current position? Because not a lot of these are going to apply. Select up to 3. In my current position, or just what I think in general? Okay. Well, I'll just say in my current position, and inadequate access to necessary tools, not an issue. Being tasked with non-development work, not really. All of that work is still productive when I get assigned that. Non-work commitments, yeah, that's a big one. Like I said, flex time is pretty important. I try to set working hours. Occasionally those sort of get mixed up here and there for different things. Like for instance, on Thursday I have to go to a teacher conference, and then on Friday I got to take the car in to, yeah, that's definitely one of them. Okay, meetings. I feel like I've really been able to cut back on meetings for the most part. There are times though when it gets like super super bad. It depends on the time of year, what's going on, and what kind of like new thing is happening. Like very recently I had one where, oh man, this is one. Uh Things getting bottled up in like management layers. What's the way that you would describe that? Like I sent something off and it had to do with finance, so finance got involved, and then finance started talking to legal, and then legal was like, way too much stuff to do, gonna put it on next quarter, and it was like a bug fix. So it was one of those things where it was just like, I don't know what to do, I don't know what to say. It's a bug fix. Why is this like this? Why is this happening? And yeah, we'll see. I don't know. So I don't know, maybe that's lack of support from management, but not really. Uh, you could say that it's inadequate access to other teams having the resources that they need. I don't know. I'm gonna just put it as meetings because we talked with legal and there was like 1,000 emails. Yeah, we'll just say meetings. All right, I don't know. It's complicated. Oh, how often do you work remotely? All the time. Okay. Where do you prefer to work? At home. That's right. In my office at home, but yeah. For the specific work you do and the years of experience you have, how do you rate your own level of competence? Oh, that's hard. For the specific work you do and the years of experience you have, how do you rate your own level of competence? We're going to go with average. I don't know how to judge other people on this. I feel confident in the work that I do. I don't have like a gauge on the scale of all the people who have as much experience as I do. So, yeah, I think for the most part, we're just going to roll with average. I hope I'm average. I certainly don't feel behind, and I know people who can do amazing things that I cannot do. I'm very good with the tools that I use. I'm very good with problem solving. I am not good with solving all problems. Yeah, I feel pretty average. I don't know the answer. I think average is the best I can come up with there. Do you review code as part of your work? Yes, I see value in code review. On average, how many hours a week do you spend in code review? I don't know, maybe 3 total. Does your company regularly employ unit tests in the development of their products? Yeah. It's not part of our process, but developers do it on their own. Right. No, I think no, and I'm glad we don't. It depends what it is again. This is one of those things where it's just like, oh, when it's like you're testing the inputs and outputs to a function and you want to make sure that that function doesn't break, then yes, but like overall functions end up getting way too big. I have opinions. I shouldn't be talking about opinions on unit testing when I don't do it. But the reason I don't do it is because maintaining the test is largely as difficult as maintaining the code. I just don't have any other way to say it. Like, the thing I care about working isn't this, like, unbelievably small unit. It's the connection of how all of those units fit together. And you can't reasonably test all the inputs and outputs to every function. So that's kind of my answer. If it were something that was like an open source lib, like a JSON serializer, of course, like let's do some tests. We can just mock up all the things that we need to know that they work. Or if it's a spec like CommonMark, well, there's a bunch of tests right there in the CommonMark spec. Then yeah, let's do those things. But in general, if there's not a spec along the lines of like, this is how this function should work, then yeah, the thing you're testing gets quite big and the tests get really hard to maintain. Personal opinion. How does your company make decisions about purchasing new technologies? Developers typically have the most influence on purchasing new technology. Developers and management have nearly equal input. CTO, CIO, and other management purchase new technology, typically without the involvement of developers. I'm going to say that developers are largely to do with it here at this company. I don't know. It sort of depends on like how big of a deal it is. Like if we're bringing in stuff that costs money, it obviously goes up to management because we're not signing on any dotted lines that only they are. But at the same time, if you want like ReSharper or something like that, they're just going to be like, okay, come get it. Yeah. What level of influence do you personally have over new? I would say I have some influence. This would be like, what database should we use? Not when I mean Redis. I mean like, or not when I mean SQL Server, but I mean like, okay, let's bring in Elasticsearch because Elasticsearch is doing this. really well, and it can make all of these use cases and feature requests that we have a lot easier. That sort of a thing, I feel like, is not particularly difficult. Open source includes, again, not particularly difficult as long as you go through the process of making sure that they're licensed correctly. Um, yeah, I mean, you're not going to see me buying servers or anything like that. It's just not my realm, I guess. IoT databases. So cloud, no, that's going to be like the SREs, the AI, almost all of it. IoT and databases. I don't know what IoT. Do we really have IoT? I don't think so. So obviously, I don't make decisions on that. Next, tech and culture. The next set of questions will focus on technology and tech culture. Great. Which of the following programming, scripting, and markup languages have you done extensive development work? 1 second. Have you done extensive development work in over the past year, and which do you want to work in the next year? I have done extensive development work in C Sharp, in HTML and CSS, in JavaScript, in Python, mostly for school, in R, mostly for work, C Sharp for work, HTML and JavaScript also work. And really, this is like, can't tell you how many new projects I've started where I was like, hey, all right, let's make a JavaScript game. But enough to stay current with a lot of these. SQL, almost every day. With TypeScript, no, but I want to. WebAssembly, oh, I guess I said want to. I really want to keep going with Python. I love JavaScript, and I love C Sharp. I would also love to get into C. Right. The reason I want to get into C is for something that we're going to work on later, which is going back to the matrix multiplication stuff. Is really just got a lot to do with this like long-term path that I'm on as far as like making search a lot faster. But we'll come back to that. Getting to the point where like I've reached the potential of, or like a threshold in C Sharp where like getting further performance is enormously easier in other languages, but right now it's just really difficult in C Sharp. Worked with in the past year. SQL Server. Redis. That's it. What do you want to work with? SQL Server. Redis. I don't really want to work with databases at all, to be frank. Other than like CSV files. I don't know. Want to work with these, kind of a weird thing. It's like I don't want to go. I read all of these as like this, or well, not MongoDB, but I read like MySQL, Postgres, Oracle, and SQL Server is basically the same. Do you want to do SQL next year? Because I think of things in like languages, the interface that I would have with this thing. But I'm not like going and building like a forms application on Oracle or anything like that. That's not just like something that's in my list of desires. All right. That one was pretty easy. Which of these platforms have you done development work for over the past year? Platforms. Windows? Yeah, for the most part. I had this dream of doing a lot of stuff with a Raspberry Pi once, but now I'm like, it would be fun, but there's so many other things that I want to do. I think I am going to get back into Raspberry Pi though. It's like a little self-contained computer. Man, you can do so much stuff with it. You can plug in like cameras to it. You can plug in like recording equipment. Like you can like prototype, a Ring doorbell if you wanted to, or you could prototype like all these different things. And I really love it. You know what? I think I am just going to add it back in there because it's like one of those things where there's so much and you can program with it. It's just a raw Linux installation right on top of it. Yeah. And I also think Docker is super cool. Docker, really in the sense of like I want to use a thing. Like, for instance, I ran into a bug earlier today where I tried to get Elasticsearch up and running, and my version of Java that I have installed on the computer is like new, and it'd be so cool if it was just like, hey, download this Docker container, and guess what? It just has the right version of Java in it for what you need to run this version of Elasticsearch, and we're not going to have any issues. Like, it's just self-contained, fully running service. I can just pop it on my machine. Like, that's how I want to do things. So easy. All right. Which of the following web frameworks have you done extensive development work in over the past year? ASP.NET. jQuery? Not really. Kind of got away from jQuery. Web frameworks? ASP.NET. Express, Flask, Laravel, React.js. Nope. I do think probably moving away from web development in my career, so not going to check any of those want to boxes. Which of the following frameworks, libraries, and tools have you done extensive development work in over the past year? Great question. Probably none. .NET, .NET Core. Oh, actually, have used Pandas quite a bit. Extensive development work. That's all for school. Had like an entire class on using Pandas. I got real into TensorFlow for a minute, but I didn't. I think I want to work with PyTorch. Stick with .NET. I won't even go .NET. I'll just do .NET Core. That's really kind of it. If I were going to get into game development, I think Unity is the direction that I would go, and that would be a lot of fun. That would be so much fun. I just don't have the time for it. Hello and welcome to the channel, everyone. I'm just going through and filling out the 2019 Stack Overflow Developer Survey. Feel free to compare your answers with mine and drop a line in chat, say hi, and let me know what you would check out. I'm really just trying to, talk about a little bit about why I'm answering the way that I'm answering. That's it. Totally interested in what y'all are doing. Which development environment do you use regularly? Please check all that apply. I stick almost entirely to Visual Studio, Visual Studio Code, and RStudio. And that's it. I use RStudio when I'm doing R, obviously, works on both Windows and on Mac. And then I use Visual Studio on my main development box, like right here. And then I also use, you can see actually, here's my three. I just got them lined up. Sublime Text I really just use for like looking at text files and whatnot, but not actually, not any kind of development work. I do use LinkPad a lot. LinkPad is super useful if you're into writing quick little C# scripts, as opposed to like getting a whole project up and running. You can just drop in there and it sort of dumps everything out right away to like a little console. So you can just be like, hello world dot dump, and whatever you want just like pops right out. And so you can go and you can talk to your databases, you can go and load up your CSVs, do whatever it is that you want to do. You can do it in here very quickly. I use this all the time when I'm doing things like trying to figure out what different things, if I have like a really big web project or something like that, and I'm having trouble figuring out like what one little snippet of code is doing, then I'll just copy it into here and start grinding away on it. And this also supports like NuGet and all kinds of, package includes and whatnot. Again, highly recommend this. Not on here though. LinkPad would have been awesome. So let's just add it actually. LinkPad. All right. And then, Visual Studio Code I use. I'm slowly moving away from Visual Studio and just moving to Visual Studio Code full time. I just really love it. It does everything. We'll get around to using that later on. Let's see what's next. What is the primary operating system? Windows. How do you use containers outside of work for personal projects? Almost entirely for school right now. Um, they usually provide you some sort of VM to do your work on, so that when they do the comparison of, whatever your code is to everyone else for the grading, that they can compare apples to apples, as opposed to like, oh, I submitted it, it works on my machine. And then also, I just really love it for like, what is the thing that you use to pull it up? Like if I want to do something in like a special version of, Python or something, I find it much easier to just load up a whole container with that version of Python, instead of like getting a Python manager out and managing everything like that, because I can make whatever changes I want to the box. I can install whatever kind of craziness I want to. The only issue that you run into is if you try to use your video card for like, any sort of machine learning or anything. I haven't quite figured out how to get through that, so I still have to do that on my main box. And for that, I use Anaconda, which is right here, down at the bottom. All right. So that's my answer there. I don't use it at Stack Overflow for work as much as I know. So that's my answer. All right. How is your organization thinking about or implementing blockchain? I don't think we are. Is blockchain cryptocurrency technology is primarily useful across many domains and could change many aspects of our lives? I truly believe this, but let's just see what else. Useful for decentralized currency? I do not believe that. Useful for immutable record keeping outside of currency? I think that and the first one is sort of the same, because that's the like primary operation that makes this awesome. A passing fad? No, I don't think so. And irresponsible use of resources? Currently, I think that's one of the biggest problems, but I definitely don't think it's like a blocker. I think it's just a problem that we have to overcome. So definitely going to say this one. To go into an example of one of these that I like truly believe is when we get like more and more AI agents like out in the world, they're going to have to communicate with one another in order to like make decisions. And I really feel like the way that they're going to do that is going to be through like communication through some sort of blockchain, where this history of the decisions that we've made is just consistent and non-changing, and there's a record of it. And all of this like explainable AI and stuff like this is just one of the biggest use cases that I see for it. Um, yeah. It's a big one. I'd love to talk about that more. I'll probably actually have a whole show on that, because I've got a bunch of friends who are into it who know a lot more about it than I do. All right. Do you think people born today will have a better life than their parents? Absolutely. How? I think is a little interesting. For starters, make more money, or make more money proportionally to like the world. What's the way to say that? Um, if my parents were in the top 10% of income earners, do I think my children will be in the top 10% of income earners? No, I don't. What I do think is that all of the things that we're building today are making lives easier, making lives safer, making life more entertaining. That's a really big one for me. Like all of these things, like are just getting better, and the more that we learn about the way that the body works, and the more that we're able to like manage these sorts of things, I feel like yeah, it's just better. I know that, you know, self-driving cars is one that stands out to me. Like, so, first off, driving a car, it's fun. It can be fun. Uh, but one, it takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of like cognitive power in order to be able to do this thing, which you could be using for other things, which you could be enjoying. And if we get cars, self-driving cars, to the point where like they can just sort of do it all on their own, then and we just trust them to be safe, and they are actually safe, not just trusting them, but they are actually safer than like humans driving. Like there's no more drunk driving accidents. There's no more, wasted time in the car. There's no more, oh, I looked to the side, oh, I missed my light, oh, anything like this. It's just like it'll all just be optimized. And I think, there's a long way to go, one, in the technology by itself, and then two, in like the trust of humans to like actually sit in this thing and not look out the window when you're in this car, but to actually like do whatever it is that you want to be doing, like whether you're, typing or whatever. And I also think that like The more connected the world gets, the more people are going to end up wanting to travel. Like when traveling becomes safer, and when traveling doesn't interfere, when you can enjoy traveling for the aspect of traveling, like looking out the window and like, seeing the trees and paying attention to these kinds of things instead of like focusing on the road and stuff like that. I just think definitely there's a lot of things, and that's just one example. There's so many other things. What individual person do you think is going to have the most influence in tech in the coming year? This is going to sound crazy. I don't know if y'all know him, but Siraj Raval. I'm not exactly a fanboy of Siraj, but I have learned a lot through Siraj. Doing the examples that he posts online, watching his videos on YouTube. He tries out so many different things. He's like really focused on machine learning and deep learning. And I feel like he also like focuses on a lot of different problems, so you get introduced to a lot of different things. And he does evaluations of like, you know PyTorch versus TensorFlow versus whatever the 19 other ones were, was the one that came out the other day. And it's all these like, it's not really hard to like digest stuff too. He gives you these like 10-minute videos for most of them, where he really kind of just hits the high points on all of it, and then you kind of have to do the rest of the work yourself. But I think as far as like directing people in one direction or another, he has a lot of influence there, or at least he will by the end of the year, more so than he has today. And I just remember when I first started grad school, I think I saw his first like 4 videos, and I was like, what is this dude doing? But you watch the video again and again and again, and you're like, oh man, okay, so that was actually kind of interesting. And then as time went on, it was just one of those things where like, yeah, now it's on my playlist, and I only have like 3 things on my YouTube I want to watch it list, and he's one of them. So that's my answer there. I am super interested what y'all think. There's other obvious ones like Elon Musk and whatnot, but I just don't feel like he actually does the work so much as I am much more convinced by people who are in it doing doing the coding, doing the working, doing the whatever, than just the pundits and the owners of the organization. Now don't get me wrong, those people like Elon Musk are super smart and have lots of ideas about the way that all this stuff works together, and the kinds of things that we can accomplish as like people. But as far as answering this question, most influence in tech, I just feel like you got to be a little bit more into the actual tech part of it, and also not pushing one thing or another, just like willing to do things like evaluating all the way across the board. So that's my answer. Curious what y'all think. Are you the IT support person for your family? Yeah. Also yes. Fortunately, someone else has that title. Unfortunately, no. Sigh. Probably also yes. Yeah. And anytime I've tried to get rid of it, it just comes right back. I visit my mom. Yeah, we're doing tech. My kid's like, my iPad's on 7%. I'm like, plug it in, dude. No, daddy, you plug it in. It's like, really? Have you tried turning it off and on again? Man, of course. What social media site do you use the most? Just Twitter. That's like every morning. I have this funny conversation all the time with my wife where she's like, "Would you stop? Would you get off your phone?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm reading my morning newspaper. I got my coffee and I got my phone, and I'm just like, yeah, that's my thing. That's how I do my morning, is checking out whatever the latest news is and going through all the Twitter stuff. The kinds of people that I follow on Twitter are friends of mine, and I also follow a lot of like aggregators for different kinds of news, just so I can sort of again hit the highlights every day. This is one of those things where like I wouldn't have to do this if there was a thing on Stack Overflow for it. That'd be cool. One of those questions I was asked earlier. So yeah, Twitter is definitely my highest one. Do you prefer online chat or in real life conversations? Not really either. I think I'm good with both of them. Do you call it a username, a handle, a login, a screen name, a user ID? It's a username. Everybody has a username. A login. Breaker 10-4, what's your login? I don't know. A handle, a screen name. Screen names are from back in the day of like AOL Instant Messenger, right? Have they called it anything? I think that was the only place I ever remember it being a screen name. User ID to me sounds like a number, not not like a username. We are almost done. All questions in this section are optional. As a reminder, all reporting of the survey responses will be anonymized. What is your age in years? 36. I am a man. Which of the following do you currently identify as? Please select all that apply. If you prefer not to answer, I am a man. Do you identify as transgender? I do not. Which of the following do you currently identify as? Please select all that apply. If you prefer not to answer, straight. Which of the following do you identify as? Please check all that apply. East Asian, white, or of European descent? Yep. Which of the following describe you? If any, this information will be kept private. If you prefer not to answer, you may leave this question blank. I am deaf. I am unable to difficult to type. I am unable to find it difficult to walk or stand. I prefer not to answer. None of the above. Which of the following describe you, if any? This information will be kept private. If you prefer not to answer, you may leave this question blank. Of course, I'm showing this on the screen because I'm probably going to answer none of the above for all of these. If any of these were something that I had to click, I almost certainly would put it off to the side because I don't like sharing things that are like that. Which of the following describe you, if any? This information will be kept private. I have a concentration or memory disorder. I have a mood disorder. I have anxiety disorder. I have autism. I prefer not to answer. None of the above because I don't know. Do you have any dependents? I do. How do you feel about the length of this survey? It's all right. I probably would have gone a lot faster if I wasn't constantly talking about it. How easy or difficult was this survey to complete? I would say there was some parts of it that were not entirely clear of what I was hoping to get, but the rest of it was okay. Thank you for taking the survey. Do you have any feedback or thoughts you would like to share? Not really. Finish. All right, I'm done. Cool. I am going to take a quick 2-minute break to go to the restroom. And then after that, we're going to jump into doing a little bit of search algorithms. The search algorithms are going to be basically to, well, we'll start off with something really simple, and then we'll get into something a little more interesting. Probably NPuzzle, I think, is a good one to start with. Anyway, I will be right back, and I'll see you in just a moment. All right, and I'm back. Let's get into some code. I just clicked the wrong thing. That was awesome. Let's close that. Okay. Yeah, so if you remember the other day we were working on the matrix multiplication. I have been working on that in bed quite a bit recently, and I've been having quite a lot of fun with it. I have gotten to the point, I'll just, for the sake of, doing it, just one time run it just to show you, but then we're going to turn this off and actually do the search stuff that I talked about. And puzzle, update information. Okay, so this is .NET run C release. All right, this is doing a lot of stuff here. Wow, just installed a new version of .NET earlier today. And this is taking an excessively long time. This must not be running in release. Okay, and now let's try that one more time. Wow, what is going on here? Wow, this runs so much slower on my machine when I'm actually doing streaming than when I'm not. When I'm not doing streaming in release mode, this is only like 500 milliseconds. I guess all the stuff that the video processing is doing is actually eating up quite a bit of it. But you can still kind of see the general trend here, where naive should not be that slow. Okay, so naive, and then it gets a little bit faster when you, like, show you the difference here. All right, when you start off with naive, it's actually assigning it here. All right, well, the long and short of all of this is when you drop into unsafe mode, you get rid of all your bounds checks, and everything gets enormously faster. So you can see that, like, unsafe mode, doing this in this gets rid of those bounds checks on all of your array accesses, and you go from 23 or 2.3 seconds to like 650 milliseconds, which is enormously better. All right. Let's see here. Next, let's go ahead and get rid of this and start a new project. Close folder. Open folder. And we're going to call this one, we're going to actually drop back and put this in here. We're going to call this, I don't know, something like search problems. Let's actually put it in there. Keep everything organized for the stream up here. New folder. Search problems. Okay. All right. Okay. First things first. Let's start a .NET project, because we'll just do all these in .NET. Terminal, new terminal. .NET, new console. All right, great. Now let's go to program. Now let's go to search problems. First thing we want to do is actually make the problem. Required assets to build and debug are missing from search problems. Yeah, sure, bring them in. Whatever. Okay. The first thing that we want to do in here is create... No, all of a sudden you don't know what a program is? What? This thing is silly. The namespace search problems already contains a definition for program. Does it now? How about we close that? I don't know what to say. That's crazy. Is this like a bug with VS Code or something? Alright, seems fine now. Okay, so first thing we're going to do is make a game, and we're going to call it the inpuzzle.cs. Name space, and we want to call this search problems. Alright, public class inpuzzle. Now the inpuzzle has an in, which is public int in get private set. And so the idea here is the end puzzle. If you're not familiar with the end puzzle, it's like the sliding tile puzzle. Let's just take a look. Give me a browser window. Sliding tile puzzle. Go to images. And there, yeah, see, if you've ever seen one of these, this is it. It's just like basically a bunch of tiles with one of the tiles missing. And then the idea is that you mix them all up, and then you have to reorganize them in the correct way to fix the picture. Or in the case of the numbers, you reorganize them so that it starts at the very beginning with a 1, and then goes all the way down to 14 or 15, and then leaves the bottom, the last one open. There are variations of this game where you say things like you have to have where the first one has to be in the first spot, like right here. Zoom in a little bit, where the first one has to be in the first spot and the blank has to be down here. And then there's other variations where the blank has to be up here and you count it as a 0 and stuff like that. For the sake of this game, I think we're going to put the blank space up here at the very top corner. Or we're going to look up what the most common way is in the research. But we'll come back to that. So what we need to do is we need to represent a board. And I'm going to do this in a very naive way and just say private, let's see, byte. So how many cells will there be? We're not going to be able to do one bigger than 5 by 5, so the biggest number that we're going to get to is, well, I guess if we do bytes here, then what we can end up with is the largest number could be 255, which I think is, I don't know, 256 square root is 16. Okay, so we can have a 16 by 16 board, which is quite large if we store bytes. So we'll just start with that. Byte, and this is going to be board. Then we're going to say public in puzzle int in this dot in equals in, this dot board equals new byte size of in. And then what we want to do is have a little indexer so we can index it just like it's a piece of memory. Public byte this indexer int cell int row int call. And then what we want to say is return go private int get index int row int call in times in int row int call, and return this dot equals row times this dot in plus call. So this is just a row major way of looking into this byte array. I guess we could just, you know what, let's just save some time and just make it a byte like this. This new byte in, comma in, and then we actually don't need this. Return this dot m, no, this dot board of row call. What have I done wrong? Property or indexer must have at least one accessor. Oh, that's right. It's a get. There we go. And then a little easier to read when it's like that. Okay, perfect. And then we also want to say that set is this dot board of row call equals value. Okay. All right, so now we have a quick little in puzzle, and what we want to do is say var puzzle 3 equals new. Where is my in puzzle? Yeah, there we go. In puzzle of 3. And then what we want to have is a new thing called a solver. iSolver in puzzle solver. That's yes. Public, no, namespace, search problems, public interface, in puzzle solver. And then this is basically going to return a bunch of new locations that you have to move your blank to in order to achieve the goal. So this is going to be, I'll probably just, yeah, I'll just do it. Okay. Byte array of solve, and then we'll call it in puzzle. Okay, and then we will create a puzzle solver, and this first one is just going to be a really generic one called a breadth first search solver, which is almost certainly going to die on my machine, but we're going to try it anyway. Breadth first search solver.cs, and then again namespace search problems public class breadth first search solver, and this is going to be an in puzzle solver, and then we're just going to implement this. Great. Okay. And then to get this going, just going to say that in puzzle solver equals new breadth first search solver, and then we're going to say var solution equals equals solver.solve of puzzle 3. Okay, so we need to do a little bit more on the initialization here to get it to be a good puzzle. And the way that we're going to do that is we are going to, I guess, randomize it. Sure, let's randomize it. Okay. Public in public void shuffle int in moves. All right, so this is going to make random moves of this board. Okay, let's do that. So what I want to do is say public void move int new blank location int row int call. And then I also, I think in here, want to track private int blank row, private int blank call. And then what we're going to do when we initialize it is instead we're going to say I equals new byte array, and then we're just going to initialize it directly. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Oh crap, I can't do this because it matters on n. Okay, so we are going to. Okay. So we're going to say this dot n times this dot n enumerable dot range give me a numerable here using system.link range 0, and we're going to say dot cast to byte dot to array, and that doesn't want to work. Cannot implicitly convert type. Oh, that's right. Okay, great. Okay, let's just say private void initialize int. I really wish in C# you could reshape an array that was of the correct size as easily as you could in like NumPy. It is so frustrating to have to go back and create a whole new value and then copy everything over to it, when I could just do this and then just say like dot reshape to n by n instead of, you know, one long thing that is this long. I want to say I've done quite a bit of research on it too. I think the reason that you cannot actually do that is when you have a multi-dimensional array, it's really just like a language construct. There is no like system level multi-dimensional array. So if you ask it for a 5x5 array, it's going to go and it's going to give you 25 times whatever the length of the size of the object is that you're making an array of. So if you say like an int, or rather if you say like a byte, it's going to go and give you 25 bytes. And those bytes are going to be consecutive, but the way that it does it is in the overall data structure that defines what an array is. It starts off in the very first element. It looks sort of like this. It's like, public class array, not toArray, just array. And then it's like int rank, and then it's like indices, like this, and then it's you know, a pointer here or a giant array to actual data. And really, these are pointers. But these right here are actually laid out. So when in the actual like data structure and the implementation, like if you go look at the BCL, first is always the rank that tells you how many indices there are. And then it tells you, you know, here are your two indices, but it's not an array. It's like it actually puts them 1, 2. So if you make it a rank equal 2, then it comes in here and it looks like, or is it a pointer? Anyway, regardless, the idea, the point is that like these numbers, these like actual dimensions, like dim1 is next, and then int dim2 is next. And when you try to reshape it, you are actually going to change the shape of the thing that offsets where the actual data starts. And because of that, you end up with this problem of not being able to resize arrays in the way that arrays are implemented. And it's just frustrating. It's also something we're just not going to worry about right now because we're writing about searching. So instead, we're just going to have this thing initialize size. And what we're going to do is we're going to say byte result equals new byte size times size, return result, and then we're going to have this be, oh yeah, I guess so, huh? Static byte array. And then we're just going to have this thing be initialize of in. Why are you giving me? Oh, it's a multi-dimensional array. I'm just not good at this. No one knows what they're doing, especially me. That's that thing where I was taking that test earlier. Not test. I was taking the survey, and it's like, do you consider yourself to be above average, just about average, or below average? And I'm like, yeah, I typo literally every line I write. That's okay. Let's see here. For int I equals 0, I less than size I plus plus. For int j equals 0, j less than size j plus plus. Result I j equals I times size plus j. And then cast it all to a byte, which it's going to complain about, but whatever. Okay. All right. Let's see if it'll actually do this much. So we have initialized it. Now what we want to do is we want to shuffle it. Okay. So we're going to say for int I equals 0, I less than in moves. We're not going to call it in moves. We're going to call it moves because it's just a little easier to read. Moves I plus plus. We want to move. We want to. All right, now we want a random. I think we're going to go with a static random here. private read only. I forget how to do these. I had it in, I forget, whatever. I'm just gonna try and figure it out. I'll say it's thread static of random, and now I definitely need to include some stuff using system. Thread static random random equals new thread static equals, I forget how to do this, gonna have to Google it. Yep, definitely gonna have to Google it. Okay, that's not what I wanted. C#. This is one of those things where I've looked it up like 100 times and just cannot commit it to memory. C#. Thread static random. Whoa, that's big. Okay. Thread static random. Correct way. Clearly I have clicked on this before. Closed as duplicate. That's a lot of stuff right there. Any one of these other ones good? This is, oh, thread local, not thread. That's what I meant, thread local. Let's just copy the whole thing. In puzzle. Thread local. I don't want this static class. Static random seed. Thread local. What are you complaining about? Encapsulate field. No, I'm good on that. Using system.threading. And then what you want is random.value.next. Okay. Okay. So now what we say is int size, int max, int, I think it's next exclusive upper bound max. Okay, great. So now what we're going to say is int j. Okay. Now let's get. Okay. Before we do this, we want to say get successors public byte array get, you know what, now I want things like, okay, so now public class move int public int row get set public int call get set byte move new blank location. Okay. Why is that complaining all of a sudden? Duplicate public modifier. Oh, that is duplicate. That's cool. That was actually helpful. All right. Now what we want to do is var moves equal expand moves. And then we want to say we want to say random var selected move equals moves of rand of moves dot length. Okay. And then we want to say move of selected move. All right, so now we need an expand moves function. Did I already do that? No, I didn't. That's what I had my public for. Public moves list move, and now we want of expand moves, and now we want to include what we need to include. Expand moves. This wants to be count. Why is this complaining? A local parameter moves cannot be declared in the scope because that name is used in enclosing local scope. I'm confused. Because that name is used in an enclosing. Oh, I see. It's right here. Can't declare it twice. Int num moves. Great. Num moves. Oh, well, how about we go back and we call this what we should call it, successors. That's not right. C, V, V. Okay, expand moves. And then move. All right. Now, what we want to say is something along the lines of swap. I guess we'll just implement a swap in here. And we're going to say, all right, var val, no, byte, temp equals this dot board of this dot blank row, this dot blank call. And then we're going to say byte, and then we're going to say this dot board of this dot blank row, this dot blank call equals this dot board of new blank location dot row new blank location dot call this dot board. I'm just going to copy this, come up with something a little less verbose here later on, equals temp. All right, so now we have swapped those, and then we need to say this dot blank row equals new blank location dot row. This dot blank call equals new blank location dot call. Oh, move is a class. All right, let's call this location. And then get to just update everything. Okay. Ref random seed. That reminds me, we need to go back to here, and we need to grab a link, copy link address, and give some attribution. Okay. And then we need to, let's see, what do we need to do after that? This is good. All right, now we just need to expand the moves. So depending on where you are, you're either on a wall, a corner, or in the middle. And in each of those cases, you're going to have a maximum of 4 different locations that you can get to. So let's go to var successors equals new list location of 4, because it can have at most 4. It won't actually create a list of size 4. It'll just say this thing is initialized so that I won't have to resize before I get to 4. Return successors. I want to say that the default is probably even more than that anyway, because 4 is quite small for a list. But for the sake of argument, that's what we're just going to do for now. Okay, now we want to actually determine where we are. If this dot blank row equals 0, all right, then we can only move down on the up and down. Oh wait, no, better than that. Okay, if blank row is greater than 0, then we can move up, period. So what we want to say is successors, and the way that we're going to do this is up, down, right, no, left, right. Successors dot add new location, and this location is going to be did I make this easy enough? Yeah, I did. I should have this be something like private set. Private set. Can I still initialize them from in here? Because that would be awesome. No, that would be way too easy. Okay. In term, I'll call this private location int row int call this dot row equals row, this dot call equals call. I'm trying right here to make it so that you can't modify this once you get outside. Of course, there's reflection and stuff like that, but like for the most part, I just want it to be obvious that you're not supposed to modify this location. The only thing that generates this location is like the rules of the game, which are all contained within this one class called npuzzle. And then all of the stuff that operates against npuzzle is just going to take that stuff and then operate against the state of the game. So now I can actually do it like this, which is this dot row minus blank row minus 1, this dot blank call, because we're not moving left or right. And what on earth is crapping out here? Inaccessible due to its protection level. That's frustrating. Can I do internal, or does internal do the whole everything can touch it? And this is me not knowing enough about C#. If I do internal, can things outside of here touch it? Yes. If I do private, I really was under the assumption that things here could do it. So what if we just do something like public static location create? I really think this is going to be the only way. Int row, int call, return new location row call. All right. Location dot create. Okay, we're gonna want all of these. Down now is anything where this dot blank row is less than this dot n minus 1. Yes, blank row, because this is 0 indexed, blank row is always going to be less than this. So we need to subtract 1 off of it. And then in this case, we want to add 1 to it. Okay, great. Now we want to do basically the same thing for left. If it's greater than 0, so call, then we can blank row, keep it on the same row, and then blank call minus 1. And then if it's to go right, we want blank call less than this dot n minus 1, and then we can add 1 to it. Okay. That's good. Okay, so now what we can do is we can get the moves that come after this. We can shuffle the board, and by some number of moves, and we can, so basically this is a way of generating random scenarios. And then we can make moves. All right, so we get all the moves. I'm sorry. I don't actually want this anymore, do I? I want... No, I don't actually want this indexer. That was just me sort of not considering it. Oh, well, no, yeah, okay, let's do this. Let's add a toString method here. Public override toString. And what we want to basically do is say for int I equals 0, I less than this dot in I plus plus for int j equals 0. Now I'm gonna want that. For int j equals 0, j less than this dot in j plus plus. Okay. Var string builder equals new string builder system.text. And I want to say return sb.toString. Now what we want to say is string toString. Now what we want to say is add the element. sb.append of this dot board ij and we're just going to add a space to it, and now we're going to say sb.append line. And so the idea is we get a representation of the board. Now what I need to do is format this correctly. Dot toString, and I want to say I do it in I want to say you do pound 0. Yeah, that feels right to me. Let's try that. Well, no, we know that it can't. Oh yeah, it can. It can go up to 256. So pound 0. All right. Though what this ought to do is format this. And I wonder if we can just do it like, I don't know. This ought to take, let's do it a more appropriate way. Append format, and in this case, string format is zero colon in 0 pound 0 space, and then I don't need this, and the argument is that. All right, so what this should do is make fixed width values, which are going to be a little bit easier to read, hopefully. I don't even know if that's going to work. We're going to try it in just a second. Okay, so now what we can do is we can, actually I don't even want the shuffle to be here. The shuffle is more of a like outside concern. The rules, and no, we're going to bring that back. We're going to worry about that later. Okay, you have expand and you have move, so you can get all of the possible successors, and then you can apply one of the successors, and then you can actually see the state of the board. And I think that's all we need to do. Let's go ahead and just see if we can print this out. It's running a little short on time today. And then we'll see what we can do from there. So in puzzle 3, and we'll come back to this in a bit, say puzzle 3 dot toString and console.writeLine of npuzzle3.toString. And then what I want to say is var equals puzzle3.move of puzzle3.expand moves, and take the first one. And then I want to say the same thing. Print it out again. And I probably don't even need toString. I can just do puzzle3. And let's give that a shot and just see what happens. .NET run. What I am expecting to happen is that it shows them in order 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's good. And then it made the very first move, which was down. So first, let's take a look at the order. Well, first off, yeah, it switched the 0 and the 3, and then it left everything else there, which is great. Okay, so now let's make a bunch of moves. Instead of this, let's do puzzle3.shuffle. And let's do, I don't know, 10 moves. Excuse me. And then let's see if it still works. And by still works, I mean all the numbers are still there. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So look at that. Every single one of them moved except for the 6. Let's see if we can do this at like 20 moves. Okay, great. So we have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And again, we see that almost all of them moved, but the 6 didn't move. Let's see if we get it to move this time. And we got the 6 to move. Okay, perfect. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so this is basically where we're going to stop for today, which is we got the board up and running, and then I think tomorrow we'll come back and we'll get this breadth first search solver done. And if we get through that, then we'll move on to a greedy first search and start looking at a couple of heuristics that'll make this a little bit, faster. And anyway, that's it for today. Thanks everybody for joining. Actually really enjoyed today. It was fun filling out the dev survey. And please go do that as well, because I get to play with the data when it's all said and done, and so do you. And we get to see what interesting things come out of it. And then outside of that, we'll get back to work on this. I feel good about this start. Just to give you a couple of brief hints as to where this is going. So the matrix multiplication thing I have started, and it took a long time, and it was really slow. This is dense matrix multiplication, not sparse matrix multiplication. And now what I want to do is I want to get to the point where we can beat the runtime of the implementation that is used by Python, which for a 2000 by 48 by 2048, a 2000 by 48 times by 248 matrix, and then 2 of those multiplied together takes something like 20 milliseconds, and I want to basically beat that with .NET if at all possible. Which, off the top of my head, I'm really starting to think it's not that possible, but we're going to try it anyway. And the way that we're going to go about it is we're going to frame this whole problem as a search problem. And so we're going to implement some searches here to see how the searches work, and then we're going to model the other problem as a search problem, and then we're going to kick it off. And we're going to see if we can come up with an algorithm that can find a new way to implement dense matrix multiplication that can beat the state of the art. And that's really my goal. This is sort of a hobby of mine. I'm just kind of got the fire lit under me, and that's what I'm hoping to do. So again, thanks for joining, and we'll see you tomorrow, same time, noon, and then we'll also see you on Friday again at noon. Thanks again, everybody. See you later.